So we got some intel on Tuna spot about 15 miles off La Jolla a week and a half ago, and turned out to be pretty productive. I mean, it's before sunrise, and we're already hooked up, and we found a kelp patty right away, and things got going pretty
All right, we got deep cover. We just got on the boat. Not even sun's not even up. We're still good hooked up, man. Hooked up fat. He's coming up.
So we've been fighting this tuna and using these underwater shots. We were able to see here that we were throwing our bait a little too close to the boat, and it was stacking up underneath the boat. Want to make sure you get that bait far away from the boat. Here you can see the fish actually charging the boat, and we pretty much, Neil did a great job of getting the rod around the corner, getting it over to the other side, and finally we boated that fish. So the school stayed very active. We held the school for about 3 hours, continuing to throw bait, and we were doing the ground up chunks and live bait. You can see here the activity just continued nonstop. I mean, here we are tripled. We're seeing here a little snag. We got a cross up, and fortunately we were able to salvage one fish out of that mess. We were catching a lot of fish, and one of the things I use as a spare bait tank is a bleeder tank. And here we are pulling the fish out of the bleeder tank and putting it in on ice into the kill bag. So in this clip here, we're still continuing, and then Paul hooks up on what looks like a pretty substantial fish. We wound up finding that fish quite a while, ran all over the place, and turned out to be a really nice 20-pound Dorado. We've caught a couple of small ones, but that was the first real nice Dorado that we caught on this trip. It was nice to see the size, some decent sized Dorado moving into the area. And as you can see, you bring a hot one in, and it's a handful to try to control as it's flopping around the deck.
That's a nice fish. That's a very nice fish.
So as the bite wore on, I started to get a little bit of gaff fatigue. Here you see I'm here trying to pull in a tuna, missed it. To fight it for a little while longer, brought it back to the boat, and the second time around we wound up getting the fish on board. And gaff fatigue kind of plagued us throughout as the school wore on. Here's the jackpot fish. I'd never caught a fish in these waters above 35 pounds. It's the Yellowfin. And this one actually weighed out around 43 pounds.
I got him.
Action continued fast and furious. Here we've got two fish coming into the boat at the same time. You can see just kind of mayhem all over the place. And this was the first fish. Got that one on board. Sure didn't help with the gaff fatigue. It was pretty much nonstop throwing bait and gaffing fish for about 3 solid hours. I got that one out, and then this other fish comes running in, and wound up sticking that one, getting it in the boat. So as the bite wore on, the bite really started to move from deeper down, longer soaks, and the fish started to move behind the boat and started working on the surface quite a bit. So as the bite wore on, we had to change our tactics, and this was a really good example. We had just thrown the bait in the water, and then what we were doing was throwing a few pieces right behind in about the same area, and you could see the fish were hitting the bait instantly. And in this particular instance, we had them brought up, got very active, and then all of a sudden, we're on. And if we'd been soaking the bait usually longer than about 2-3 minutes, the fish wouldn't bite it. So here's a good example of the gaff fatigue. This was a situation where The fish made a funny move, and I lost the gaff. And here you can see it again. It's just sinking out, and I was kind of heartbroken watching my gaff and the fish sink into the drink. But luckily, I had a spare gaff on board, and the fish was still hooked. So ran over and got the gaff, brought it over, and watched Chris continue to fight the fish. So we're waiting, continuing. Fish is down. It still had quite a bit of fight left in it. And here I'm getting a lecture from my son on proper gaff technique. And I'm retorting that I've gaff fished a lot longer than he has. So so the fish comes up and we realize the gaff is still in the fish. So I took the spare gaff, just reached over the side of the boat and used it to hook the original gaff and just pulled the fish back in. So I was pretty lucky there. Got my gaff back.
Got my gaff back!
So after the great lost gaff incident, my son decides he's probably better off just gaffing his own. And here he is making several attempts to try to gaff the fish. But to his credit, he stayed on it and eventually hooked that fish and brought it in by himself. So kudos. So as the bite continued and we were working the surface baits, this was a good example of just how fast the fish were hitting the bait when it hit the surface. Here my son's throwing a couple of fish out to bring them up, and then he throws his bait right on the water. You can see the splash from the bait, and then all of a sudden, here comes the fish, and right away he's hooked up. So that's pretty much how this school went. Like I said, we held the fish under the boat for about 3 hours, and it was just steady chumming that kept them there, and then adjusting our tactics as the bite changed with the school. So it was a nice day. We decided to go on a boat ride, put the trollers out. It took us close to 4 hours to clean all the fish. You can see here it was a pretty good haul.